Okay, so let's finish up implementing this method with test-driven development. So where we ended up was, we can see that it does return latte, but when we print the order to see that it actually added a latte, some quantity of lattes to the order, it gave us back an empty hash. So it didn't add anything to the order. And of course it didn't, because right now our method just returns something. So what we expect it to, when we print the order, we expect to get something like, a hash with an item ID, with the name equals latte, with the price and the cost, and with some quantity, where that quantity is going to be entered by the tester. Because what this method will do, I just heard a bing, so let me see who's trying to enter.
Also with
Yeah?
with your formatting the hash, is there a way to get rid of the errors?
Are you talking about in what we print?
Yeah, because that, to me, that looks kind of hard to read.
It is. So the way, if we were doing it for anything other than debugging, so right now we're just using this for testing purposes. We would not want to print something like this for a user. And the way that we, can somebody else answer that question? The way that we would change the way that our hash prints for the user, well, how could we do that?
Could you interpolate it?
Even if you interpolate it, you're still going to get something that's not pretty. So what have we been doing to change the behavior, the way that our classes and objects print? Yeah, so we can override what's actually stored in here in this hash is what? What are we storing in here? Items, right? And the hash itself, we actually defined a method called print order. But it does maybe a little bit more. Sorry. We also overrode inspect. We could change our implementation of inspect so that it prints out something a bit nicer. Because right now this is what's getting called when we say P order. It's printing out just what's in the hash. So we could override inspect to return a different kind of string that formats it the way we'd like to see it. Yeah, we would have to actually loop through the hash, and print things out a different way. So we could do that, and if it's really important to you and you feel like it could have somebody make a mistake, I'm okay, thank you. Then because it could be that looking at the arrows could have somebody make a mistake, right, in interpreting test results, and that's a valid concern. So we could change our inspect to do something like, so since we have to return a string, okay, and not print it, then we can build this output string. So we can say, we can start with output equals, and we can give an open hash symbol. And then we can say, yeah, that's all right, order.each do, and it's going to be item quantity. That's what we have stored in this hash, in this order hash. And then we could say output plus equals item.name, and we might want to put something like name, item.name, price, item.price, cost, item.cost, and quantity. Yeah? Then we need to stick an end curly on the end of it. So output. Maybe we want to put a space in there to make it a little bit nicer. So let's just see what that looks like when we print it. Let's test it though with a more interesting test case like here. Let's see what that looks like. No cost. Let's see what's happening there. Oh, why? Why is that a problem? Somebody tell me. It's defined, so it is an attribute of item, yes? Yeah. But why is it telling me undefined method, cost? So how am I'm trying to reference it as a variable, as an instance variable on item. Yes? From outside of the class.
You need that?
Yes? So what do I need?
Add-on?
Yes, I need an adder. I need an accessor for cost. I need a reader. Right now I haven't exposed it. If we look at item, I've only exposed price and name. Okay? So if I also want to expose cost for testing, and I could put a comment here for myself so I don't forget. So that looks nicer, doesn't it? I don't have the object ID. If I want the object ID, I could put that in there too, but I probably don't need the object ID. If we decided there was a use case, you know, for our purposes that we need the object ID, we could go stick it in there. It's, I believe it's object underscore ID, I think. It tells us that. Okay, so let's go back to, and I'm just going to comment out this test again so that when we test our other thing, it doesn't print stuff. Let's go back to cafe. All right, so if input equals latte, then we're going to have to ask the user how many, aren't we, in order to add it to the order, right? Because in order to call add the item, that's calling our add item on order, yes? And our add item expects an item and a quantity. And we don't know the quantity yet. So far the user's just said I want latte. So what do we need to do now if they tell us latte? We have to ask them how many they want. So we'll have to say puts how many. And then they'll give us a quantity. And I would just cast that directly to integer, okay? Then we can call, here's going to be another issue, order.addItem. Oh, we have to do this. We have to do this before. Hold on. We have to do this here and store it in a variable. And we'll pass it latte quantity. It should be gets, yeah. Yeah.
When you want to put in things so that if they input letters?
If they input letters, this is going to turn into a 0. Yeah, so I'm just not I'm not worrying about it, but it would be good to put a comment here that says doesn't handle invalid input. Okay? And then I might create a Trello card that says, I might put it in backlog because it hasn't been scoped yet. Check for invalid quantity input in cafe.rb and get user, get, what did I call it? It's such a long method name. Get item and add to order. Okay, so we'll create a Trello card so I don't forget. It's a really good practice to just get into that practice. So I knew when I coded gets.2i that I'm not handling the case that they give me something other than a number. I know that. And I'm like, but we should note it and at least add a card for it, and then we can decide as a team, is it going to be possible that we have to deal with this case? Yes, Aiden. Use camel. I don't know that there's a case that you use camel case in Ruby. I can't. Yeah, I don't know that there is a case that you do. Okay, so I'm going to add the item, and then I'm going to return latte. Okay, how do we feel about this so far? So again, we're just trying to make this test pass. This feels okay, doesn't it? Yeah? Let's see. Oh, that's not the one I want to run. All right, it's asking me. That's good. Okay, what's the problem here? Let's look at the error message and figure out what's wrong. Yes. So, and it points to the line. What line? Line 23. So line 23 we call order.addItem. What's the problem with that? Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at our, oh look, I defined it right there. What's the problem? What's the problem? I defined it.
Cafe is not a required relative as a type.
No, that's not it. That's not it, but good guess. So it doesn't complain about me using order here. We saw it was fine with that. It's a scoping issue. It's exactly a scoping issue. And your clue is it says undefined local variable or method order. So remember that the scope in Ruby is local. Unless I make this, or so it's not going to be an instance variable because I have this isn't a class, right? So my choice is to make it global, which I've told you don't do that. And what's my other choice? I just had to do it with menu. Remember?
There's a variable in the method.
I've got to pass it in. I have to pass it in. Okay, so I'm going to pass it in as the second argument, and that means that when I call it, I need to pass it in. Okay, let's see if that makes it happy. Okay, 2. Hey! All right. I'm liking that. That looks good. Yeah? Okay, so now I can order more than a latte. We haven't gotten there yet. Okay, so right now we're just testing this method. And this method's only job is to add an item if it's valid and to return quit or invalid if it's not valid. That's this method's only job. But we need to make sure that it will also work with, I added too many of these, that it'll also work with, yeah, with T.
Would there be a problem with it? Because wouldn't they be realistically the same kind of template?
They would, but let's see what happens. The question is, does our code handle it that way? What was T's price and cost? I forgot.
$3 and
$1.50
and 50 cents.
and 50 cents.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was 50 cents.
So it's actually going to look more like this because we changed our. Anyway, that's good enough.
You've got an extra carrot, don't you?
That's all right. That's all right. It's just so let's see what happens. Okay, 2 lattes. And then I got invalid. And I can see they didn't get added to my order either, right? I might want to add some puts here so I know what I'm testing, because otherwise it starts to get hard to look at the output, right, and figure out what's going on. So I could say testing with quit, with invalid, with latte, with scone. I think I messed up my spacing. That's all right. It's all good. I'll fix it up after. With tea. Okay, well, let's just run it again. Okay, so 2. All right, that's good. So when we test with invalid, it's good. When we test with quit, it's good. When we test with latte, it looks good. When we test with scone, we get invalid. And when we test with tea, we get invalid. Well, let's look at our code. What are we doing? We're saying if it's quit, return quit.
I would say if
Ah.
it's latte, it's because we haven't.
Yes, yes. So we need to add 2 more else ifs, don't we, that look just like this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just do that. I know it's not dry, but remember the process when we're doing TDD. We just make it work. Then we go back and refactor. Okay? So we're just going to copy this just the way it is and make the changes. It is in certain situations, so not across the board, but it is used in a lot of cases by a lot of people. So we have scone. Oh, we got to change that one too. This one, scone, and then we have return scone. It's dangerous to copy and paste like this because you'll forget one. So just be really careful when you do it. T, 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 T. Okay, did I catch all the places? Does that look good to you guys? Looks all right? Okay. Let's see how we go. All right, latte, 2. Yay! It's asking how many. Yay! 2. Yes! Oh, we need to put commas. We need to put commas in our puts. That's all right. 2. Sweet! All right, let's fix our printing because that's annoying, isn't it? So in order, in our inspect, after each one of these, we'll put a comma and a space. Okay, we'll just wait till I post it up. Just follow along for now, Vic. Maybe we'll put a semicolon between them. Okay. So, awesome. We made it work. Okay? And that's the TDD process. You write the tests with what you expect to happen, trying to think about all the different potential inputs your method could get and the expected outputs that you should get in each case. Then we look at this and we're like, that's not dry at all. you know? We're asking how many, doing quantity to I, order dot add item for each one of these. We could, or we could turn that part into a method, or we could do something like, we could take these bits and pull it out outside of the if block. Okay? So let me explain. If we said, if we took this block, I'm just going to copy it for now, and I'm going to paste it here. Okay? Bear with me. And instead of referring to latte, I'm just going to refer to something generic, like item. Okay? Return item. Alright, so now I'm going to say got, so if we get a valid item, add it to, ask how many, and add it to the order. Alright? And then return the item. Okay? I'm going to move these up to the top in my description. Okay? Alright, now, how can I, if I delete all of this out of here, now on each one of these, because this code is all repeated, and I've replaced it with this generic reference to an item, how can I manage that in this part? So in this part, the problem is I'm creating these specific variable names for each case. And really I want to use the same variable name.
Item?
Yeah. So if I just change this to item, yeah? Then down here, I'm going to ask how many, and I'm just going to add whatever item that was with the quantity. Yeah? So the answer isn't always to add a method to make it dry. Sometimes we have a block of code that we're repeating inside of each if or else clause, and we can pull that block of code out of that if else and find a way to generically refer to whatever value is changing between those and refer to that generic value. Okay? So let's make sure it still works. So we didn't break it. Did I take my other one out? All right, latte 2. Yay! All right, scone. You're really hungry. 2 looks good. Looks good. And then tea. 1 tea. If you do what? If you entered 0? It's a good idea. Okay, so if we said 0, it's not really what we want, is it? It's not. That was a good test. We should add that one officially. Let's add that one officially. Yes. Cafe. Get item and add to order. With, I need to change these. So I added these tests to our spreadsheet. Oh, I gotta change that other one too. The dangers of copy and paste, people. It's real. I've gotten myself in trouble so many times with copy and paste. Oh my God. It's awful. With quantity equals 0. And then what we're going to expect in this case is it should return, what should it do?
Should it return invalid?
So how do we want our app to behave? If they say they want a latte, but then they say 0, we could treat it like invalid input, meaning that we just kind of ignore it, don't add it to the order, and ask them again. Yeah? So in that case, it would make sense to return invalid, because that's how we're handling, like they typed in something that doesn't make sense. And in this case, we expect the order to come back empty, if that was the only thing that we ordered, right? Okay, so let's have a look at our code, and let's also create a Trello card for this. We're going to add a to-do. Bug. It's not really it's kind of a bug. We're going to call it a bug. We'll call it a bug. It's kind of it's a cute little bug. It's not a really ugly bug, but we'll call it a bug. Yeah, like a ladybug. When user enters 0 quantity, we still add an item to order. Should not add an item in this case. Okay? So I think it'll be small to fix, so we'll change it to small, and we'd move it up. Do we want to try to fix this now? Yeah? It gets to be fun, doesn't it? It's like, ooh, okay, let's make it all work like we want it to. All right, so where does this change have to happen? Where do we think? So probably here, right? I think it's here, because basically we don't want to call add item if we get 0. So we could handle that right here, couldn't we? What can we do?
If quantity equals 0.
Yeah? Oops. We just want to return invalid in this case, don't we?
Do we want to print that too? Do we want to show them the other two?
So far we just return invalid from this function when we get an invalid input. So let's put a little comment here. If an invalid quantity is entered, such as 0 or a non-integer. Oh look, we're taking care of that case too. Woohoo! Yeah, yes. Or a non-integer, return invalid. We'll put a little comment so we know what we're doing. Okay. Shall we try it? All right. It's clear. There's something else I don't like about our print. We'll fix it after. See if you notice it. Okay. 0 lattes. All right. All right. Now let's check the case that we add something, a scone, two scones, but we're going to add 0 teas. So we get an invalid back, but our order still has in it what we expect, right? This is good.
Can we try again with like another letter?
Yeah, let's try it again with a letter.
Well, letter goes to 0. So she's gonna say no.
There we go. Well done.
Gets got to I, letters automatically.
And then we end up with an empty order after those 3. That's good. So did anybody notice what I didn't like about the print?
What about if you do a letter with a number after it?
It's a good question. Let's see. So a letter and a number. I think it'll still be 0. Yeah. I think if it's anything you can't evaluate. Anything you can't evaluate to a number, even if we said 1A. Ooh. Look at that.
What did it do?
1A it's happy with. It's like, oh, you mean 1. Okay, so we're just we still have a case then for invalid input for quantity. So we'll leave that ticket around. We should still address that. Now, what do you see what I don't like about the printing? It's not a big deal.
Yeah, you gotta format it so it goes to /\n.
We could do that. That would be nicer, maybe, than the semicolon. And I don't like that trailing semicolon. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That's ugly, isn't it? Do we want them to be new lines instead of semicolons? Okay, so if we do that in order, that means we're going to change this ending character here to a new line.
I didn't even take off.
And then we can just do a chomp, can't we?
I would even take off the name, like the name colon at the beginning inside of the string, just because I don't know if I'd call that a name.
Well, it's the name of the item. Like, that's the name of the field. So that's why I put name there. Because really this is an inspect. So it's for purposes of debugging.
Okay.
So we're showing that the name field is populated with this, the price field is populated with this. Let's see if this works the way we want it to. Oh, didn't like that. I think chomp doesn't need that. Maybe. Okay. 2. What is he complaining about? Is that not what I typed?
Output equals.
Why doesn't it let me just do that? Oh, because, well, chomp should return a string.
Yeah.
Maybe because what I'm returning, okay, let's
Is
just,
it because it has all the your adding
I think it doesn't like that I'm trying to do that as one fancy little step there. Okay. Ooh, we could add a little bit of extra space there. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Then we just get fancy, you know? We just get
Just like putting a new line.
Instead of adding the space, you get rid of
the curly brackets.
You don't have to get rid of them, but you can do another /n and then the curly brackets.
We could, and stick the curly brackets on their own lines. And here we're just getting a bit nitpicky, aren't we? But, you know, it's all good. We could do that. And then we don't actually need the chomp. And we could just do this. Okay, let's see if we're happy with that. Yeah, that's good, huh? Happy with that. All right, cool. So we're going to stop there with this example because we need to talk about another thing. We need to talk about gems. And then we'll incorporate a gem into this, okay? So we don't have much more to do, though, to finish implementing this. You know, this asking for user input. So we're going to ask them what item they want. We're going to call our get item and add to order. Then we're going to repeat until quit, because we did all of that inside of our method, that part that was there. We're going to repeat until quit in the loop. So we just have to call this thing in a loop, basically, you know, where we ask the user for their input, and then we keep looping until the input is quit. We just have to wrap that method in a loop, basically, okay? So, and then we're going to print the order. We've already tested that. We know that works. And we can even put that in here. So we'll say order, print order, right? And then we already know this too. Is it order.profit? I can't remember now. Order dot total profit. Does it just return a number? It does. So we probably want to put some formatting around that. Yeah. So we could just say puts the profit for this order is, we could just do that, right? Easy squeezy. Yeah, that's a good idea. $sign.
want dollar signs in front of like the name price cost. You wouldn't want it in front of name, but price cost.
We could. So you're talking about here?
Yeah, when it prints out here.
Yeah, we could, but again, I'm just going to bring it back to this is just for debugging, so we don't really care. We just want to be able to make sure we can see the values, and it's really clear for us that the values are what, we can understand the output. Yeah. Okay, so we don't have much more to implement here. I'm going to leave this loop bit maybe for you to try. All right? But let's talk about gyms.